Good morning, and welcome to the January monthly DAC webcast. I'm Jennifer Stafford, Director in the Division of Assessment Support. With me today is Michael Hackworth, Program Manager, and Pam Powers, IT Consultant in our division. We're so glad that you had the time to join us this morning. We hope that you had a restful holiday. You were able to take off some time to be with your family, to be with your loved ones, and you have come back rejuvenated and ready for all the exciting events of 2018. Now, as I was reading an article this past week, it was about the Chinese New Year's. And the Chinese use a calendar that's a bit different than ours. They go by the lunar effects. And the Chinese calendar says that it's the year of the dog. And as I was reading this article, and Michael's looking at me thinking, where am I going with this? As I was reading the article, the year of the dog is for people to have patience, tolerance, and take care of one another. And also, it's a year for change. And the article said, if you're looking to do new things like buy a new house or maybe get a new apartment or move, then this is the year to do that. And as I was preparing for this webcast, I thought, well, what a perfect year to have the year of the dog, because we are talking about a lot of change. And we are looking forward to supporting you and in that change. So this is a good year for change. When we look at the things that are changing, we're going to discuss today on our webcast the 2018 end of course field test. Also, we're going to talk through Pearson Access Next, how it's used for both K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, as well as the end of course. We've got some updates on the alternate K-Prep information, the USED feedback that we've got on our ESSA state plan. We have received that, and we want to share with you a bit about that feedback. Some updates on the early graduation score reports for our end of course that we're offering to our end of course, our early graduates, and then the reminders of our February DAC trainings. And then if you have any questions, as always, please email dacinfo@education.ky.gov. So Michael, I'm going to turn to you. Would you discuss the 2018 field test at high school for us?
Sure. Good morning and welcome back to the spring 2018 semester. We are going to share with you this morning what we can and know on the EOC field test for this spring. There will be more upcoming information in the next few weeks, and we will definitely share more information with you next month in our February DAC trainings, our face-to-face trainings. But what we would like to share today is we would like to release the dates, the testing window for EOC this spring. We are using the last 2 weeks of April, the last 2 full weeks of April, which would be target dates of April 16th through April the 27th. The participants, those who will test, will be all students who are enrolled in each EOC course at that time. Okay, so that's all students enrolled in each EOC course at the time will take that assessment. There will be limited accommodations that will be provided this year, and once we have those settled, we will communicate that information with you. All of the EOCs, the field tests for Algebra 2, Biology, and English 2 will be in an online environment through TestNav. So again, that's different this year. There are no paper-based tests. Everything will be online, and that will be through TestNav. Some information that went out earlier this week in a special DAC email, I believe Jennifer sent it, was the adding the assessment to the assessment tab in Infinite Campus. We do have a critical deadline that is approaching. The deadline to have the assessments added to the appropriate EOC courses in IC is Friday, January the 12th. So that is approaching, and I know a lot of district assessment coordinators are working with their building assessment coordinators currently to identify these courses and to assign them to the assessments. Student user counts will be created in Pearson Access Next from the courses with the assessment on the Assessment tab. The steps for adding an end-of-course assessment to your EOC course were shared earlier this week in a special DAC email. So again, if you go back to that email sent by Jennifer, I believe it was on Monday morning, you will have that information. And the Office of Education Technology, OET, has created an ad hoc report that can be used for verification purposes. And to use that, please see the Adding an EOC Assessment to Your EOC Course document sent to KSYS contacts for specific step-by-step instructions. And just a few more notes regarding adding the assessment to the Assessment tab in Infinite Campus. Please remember the assessment should be added to the English 2, Algebra 2, and Biology courses to be completed this spring. Courses completed at the end of the year, that's April, May, June, those should all be flagged. Courses that were completed prior to the end of the year, example October, December, January, February, do not need flags added. A new state published ad hoc filter, EOC course assessment setup, was public to districts. That was yesterday afternoon. This filter produces a list of all courses that have the EOC assessment correctly attached to the course. The filter should be generated to make sure EOC assessments are correctly attached to all the EOC courses. And then again, the validations must be completed by Friday, January the 12th.
And we very much appreciate the work that the DACs and BACs have been doing to accomplish this task of putting the assessment on the Assessment tab. It helps you in the long run, because when we pull the students from Infinite Campus to send to Pearson, Pearson is going to create those student user accounts. Having that flag on that assessment, on that course, will allow us to pull those students. By doing so, by putting that flag in that assessment on that course, then we will be able to pull those students. Our partners in the Office of Educational Technology has created this ad hoc report that will allow you to verify those student accounts.
Looking next on our agenda, we do have some information we would like to share on Pearson Access Next. Looking at Pearson Access Next, remember you're going to work with K-Prep 3, 8, and 11 with Pearson Access Next and the EOC field test. Under the K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, remember the Pearson Access Next for K-Prep, those tasks open on January the 8th. And some of the tasks that are completed are choosing a shipping date, ordering accommodated materials, placing additional orders, and managing participation counts. An email that was also sent out on Monday had a PowerPoint presentation that listed kind of step-by-step instructions that you can use. For the EOC field test, the Pearson Access Next for end-of-course tasks, they are currently being developed. And some of the tasks that are associated with the field test are creating the user accounts or additional user accounts, verifying student registration and test assignments, configuring the online testing environment, creating test sessions, managing and monitoring test sessions, and then, of course, all of this, with it being new, we are in the process of developing trainings that will help you understand each of these tasks and how to perform the task in Pearson Access Next. As a reminder, there are various support documents and resources that can be used. There is a Pearson Access Next online user guide If you go to the user guide, you see this screen. Over on the left-hand side, you have a menu of options, and we're just going to kind of highlight some of those options right now. But just remember, as you work with Pearson Access Next, in addition to the webinars that we are going to provide here soon and the PowerPoint presentations that go out as a resource in our DAC emails, remember that there are also online resources such as this user guide. There is also information online on moving to Pearson Access Next. So if you have a minute, or if you haven't had a chance to do so, there are resources available. Here is another screenshot of one of the menu options, and that is the management of paper test. And there are step-by-step instructions for several items covered previously. There are training modules online, like how to manage an online test session, manage paper testing, manage students and sessions, monitoring an online test session, and then after testing, things to do. So these training modules, they are also available within the Pearson Access Next online user guides. So, it's a lot of information, but there are resources that will help, walk us through on getting the task completed that we need to complete. We would also like to announce today there are going to be some webinars at the end of the month that will be specifically on Pearson Access Next EOC, and that will be the focus. And we are going to offer a webinar that will be repeated. So if you do not get to see the first one, if that time is not convenient for you, then hopefully you will have the opportunity to watch, the repeat of it. So those tentative dates and times will be Wednesday, January the 31st. We have a morning session that will be from 10 to 11 a.m. And then the repeat will be in the afternoon on Thursday, February the 1st, from 2 to 3 p.m. And again, those times are Eastern Standard Time. Within the next week, we will have a communication that goes out to you to inform you of how to access that webinar, whether you need to register or if it's via link. We will have more specifics on how you can participate in one of those webinars.
Michael, thank you so much for doing that section for me. I'm back now. I apologize for that. The importance of the Pearson Access Next is that we want you to understand that the Pearson Access Next is both for K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, as well as our end-of-course field test. So when you are approaching the Pearson Access Next, it's one platform, but two different systems. And our colleague, Jenny Larkins, had a really good example that she used with me this week. She has a Twitter account, so she tweets. She has two different accounts. She has one account for her personal and one account for her professional. So on one account, her personal account, she gets to see pictures of her grandbabies and all those sweet little faces. The other account, she gets to hear about course codes and graduation requirements and accountability. So it's one platform, but two different systems that are being used. So the Pearson Access Next is one system that is completing two different tasks for us, one for K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, and also one for the end-of-course field test. And as you know, we are partnering with Pearson to provide the online platform for our end-of-course field test. So this is bringing together these two different assessments into this one platform. So when you approach trainings, there's going to be different trainings for each of these different activities. So the task that you are completing now in Pearson Access for K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, you received that information on January 8th in a PowerPoint step-by-step document. For the end of course field test, as Michael just explained, there is going to be 2 webinars. It will be one webinar repeated twice. So we'll have them available Wednesday, January 31st, and Thursday, February 1st. So we hope that you will be able to tune in live on that webcast and be able to ask questions on those.
And Jennifer, I believe we are going to record those as well.
We
so
are,
if
indeed.
those
We
dates
are.
and times are not convenient for you, then they will be recorded webinars.
That's correct. Thank you, Michael. Also, we want you to note that the online user guide is one guide for that system. So you can go into that system, that online user guide now, and look for the paper-based testing and the online testing. So there are resources from Pearson that is assisting us with moving to Pearson Access Next, as well as managing the paper test, as well as online testing system. So again, it's one platform serving 2 purposes for us this year. All right, Michael, back to you again for the alternate K-Prep.
All right. Kevin O'Hare has been working with a lot of district assessment coordinators and people involved with alternate K-Prep testing. Our first window just ended in mid-December, and he sent us a few slides just to send out as a reminder this morning on upcoming things for alternate K-Prep. As you can see, makeup testing will begin on January the 22nd. The qualifying students for makeup testing are those students who have been newly placed, students who have transferred, students who have had an absence, or other. For the newly placed students, those are students that were placed in alternate assessment after the first window has occurred. The transfer students, those are the new students who enter the district. Now, if you do have transfer students, you should contact Kevin O'Hare or the former district to determine if a test was administered before, so that, they can determine whether or not a makeup test needs to be given. If the student had an absence, student was absent due to an illness and has medically improved since the first testing window. And then the last other qualifying student would be any reason not mentioned. So I would suggest that if you have a possibility of an other, you contact Kevin O'Hare to get a definite answer on whether or not they should be included in the makeup testing. The DAC, the Director of Special Ed, or the district consultant should request a makeup test. When you request a makeup test, there is some information that is needed. We do need the planned date of administration from start to finish, the reason for the makeup test, and previous district enrollment. And that's only if a student has transferred from another Kentucky school district. For the Window 1 school level materials, please remember that all school level materials for Window 1 should be destroyed by January 31. Anyone who has confirmed Window 1 school level materials have been destroyed, you may disregard this information. Once school level materials have been destroyed, Kevin O'Hare needs to be notified that this task has been completed. District materials should be kept until the end of the year in case a makeup test is needed. This includes any visually impaired materials used from Window 1. And then teachers should not confirm destruction of materials. It needs to be completed at the district level. The visually impaired materials for Window 2, another important announcement or some important information that Kevin has sent to share today. only applies to any student not submitted for Window 1 visually impaired materials in September 2017. And students submitted for Window 1 will also receive materials for Window 2. Again, he has put a little chart for information that's needed, the student's first and last name, their SSID number, the grade, the school, the district, and whether they are Dimension A or B. And must be submitted by February 16th to receive Window 2 materials. So at this time, we're going to turn to Pam Powers, who is taking any questions that you all may have, to take a little break to see if we can get some answers for those. Pam?
Thanks. We've had a few questions come in. Let's start with our EOC questions. A couple of these I'm just going to go ahead and answer for you guys. We have some confusion around courses that ended last semester or before the break, and about setting the flags. No, you don't have to set the flags on those if they are not going to be in the course in April when we test. Then you won't set a flag for that course. If you have specific questions, go ahead and email them to DAGinfo and we'll get you specific answers for those questions. Also, we have another question coming in. Will the end of course be given online in the future, or is this just for the field test? And I'm going to throw this one back over to Jennifer and Michael.
That's a great question. I'm glad that it was asked. So the future, we are looking toward online testing at the high school. So part of the reason we want to provide the field test is to first engage with the items. We want to ensure that the items that we are developing actually work and get the results for our students that, that we need. Also, we want to educate everyone about the different types of items that we have. In the field test that we had last spring in science, we had a cluster approach. We're taking that same cluster approach forward with English 2 as well as biology assessments. In Algebra 2, there's a particular term, cluster, and it means something different in math. So for our Algebra 2, those are called item sets or question sets. So we're bringing forward this field test so that we could try out those items, try out those clusters, try out those question sets, engage the students with those items, and observe how the items work. We're going to look at timing of those clusters to see how long it takes our students to take that. What we've talked about for planning purposes with our field test is around 75 minutes. So as you approach your planning for the end of April, you want to think about 75 minutes for each of those different assessments. We'll have further details in our February DAC training, but for right now, you can anticipate around 75 minutes. Additionally, what we want to do is for the schools to learn from the field test also. So when we are approaching our online testing, it's a different approach than administering paper. So we want schools to engage with administering online assessment on a large scale. In doing so in a field test, we're protected. There's not a lot of stakes to be dealt with. So there's low stakes. It's a environment that if something goes wrong, we can take that opportunity to fix it before next year when we go online. So yes, in the future, we are looking toward online testing. Now, we do want to note also that our expectation is that all students, as Michael indicated, all students take the assessment that are in the courses this spring, which does include our middle school students. So if middle school students are achieving high school credit, then they are expected to be part of the field test this spring. One additional note that I wanted to make also is that these are field tests. Students will not receive performance levels, so no student indicators, novice, proficient, apprentice, proficient, distinguished will be given back to our students. So those students who are in the early graduate program and pathway, those students will need to take the end of course with the quality core that Kathy Moore and Jenny Larkins are coordinating. So again, the students in the early graduate program pathway will need to take the quality core end of course, and because that assessment will provide the student performance levels, whereas the field test will not produce student performance levels. Pam, other questions?
We've had a few more come in. A couple of people have asked where to find the ad hoc report. The ad hoc report is an Infinite Campus that was sent out to your cases contacts. If they didn't send it to you, if you shoot me an email, I'll send you the link over to that report. Also, we've had another question come in about will every student be tested for end of course for the field test, or only select schools? Jennifer?
Well, we are saying all students. We're saying all students who are in those courses in the spring are expected to take those. So if you have a student, if Michael is in English 2 and Algebra 2 at the same time, we would like for him to take both of those assessments. So every A1, non-A1, and middle school student that is enrolled in those courses are expected to take the assessments. Now, we do have our exemptions. If we have medical exemption or extraordinary circumstance exemptions, those are expected, and those students will not be expected to take the assessments. But yes, all students enrolled in those courses this spring.
We have one more end of course question. What about U.S. history? Do we have to set course flags for those U.S. history courses?
No, you do not, because we do not have a field test in U.S. history this spring, and you are not asked or expected to set those flags in Infinite Campus.
That ends the questions for end of course, but we had a couple come in for the Pearson Access Next. So our first question is, do DACs need to set up or create user accounts for all their BACs so that they may complete tasks in Pearson Access Next?
I think that the answer is yes, they would need to do that. They can take those steps. And now we are going to have training at the end of the month that Michael and I have shared with you on how to do that, because I don't think that is available to you yet for our end of course. You don't have access to create user accounts as of yet. We're going to train you at the end of this month, and at that training we will provide timelines as to when specific activities need to or may happen, because the system for Pearson Access Next is not available for you to create and complete most of those tasks or all of those tasks in for the field test. So we're just giving you preliminary activities that will be expected within Pearson Access Next. Those activities for the field test are not available. For the K-Prep 3 through 8 and 11, those tasks that were shared with you in the regular Monday email on January 8th, the deadline is February 6th. So the task for K-Prep 3 through 8 are able to be completed at this time, but not for end of course.
And Jennifer, I'd also like to add, when we talk about Pearson Access Next and all the resources and then the training webinars at the end of the month, when we are out at our February DAC trainings, we are going to be lucky to have a Pearson staff member
Yes.
at each location with us. And we are going to allocate some time during the day for questions that a question and answer session, where if you have questions, that will be an opportunity for you to maybe get some answers. So you will actually get to see someone face to face from Pearson to help you and guide you on what needs to be completed, possibly what users need to be assigned, and things like that. So.
Great, that's a great point.
We have a couple more questions about Pearson Access Next, one of which is, what's the deadline for K-Prep task on PAN? Well, that depends on which shipping option you choose. We'll actually have more details for you in February, if not a little bit before, but it depends on your shipping option. Everything opened on the 8th, and depending, it could be as early as February the 16th for the first shipping option, or as late as March 16th for your third option. We also have another one, and I'm going to pop this back over to you guys. How many Pearson Access Next logins will they have? They have one for ACT, one for K-Prep. Now will they have one for EOC as well?
I believe the answer to that is yes, because it's two different systems. But I am uncertain of that, and as I'm looking over, we're not 100% sure about that. So let us get back with you on that.
And we've had a couple more things come in. Will they have to do rosters in SDRR for the end of course field test?
Chris Williams and Jenny Larkins will cover SDRR and the expectations and tasks to be completed during our February DAC trainings. So more information on SDRR will be shared at our February DAC trainings. I don't believe that we are going to expect rosters for our end of course field test. We're going to use the information out of Pearson Access Next and receive the test back. So the direct answer is no, we will not expect rosters for the end of course field test, but more information will be coming in our February DAC training.
And that's it for now.
All right, well, let's go on then to the next topic, which is USED feedback on our ESSA state plan. We have received our federal feedback from the U.S. Department of Education and on our state plan. We received the letter on December 19th or 20th, and we had a phone call, over a 2-hour phone call with them on December 19th. During that phone call, they asked us many questions about our state plan that does include not only the accountability system, but also information on standards revision, as well as the identification of targeted and comprehensive schools and our support and interventions for those type of schools. It was a really good conversation that we had with them. They had a lot of questions about how we had written our plan, and we were able to provide information to them. They did ask for additional clarification and additional details and explanation in several areas, which we will be glad to provide them. And we feel like that the information that we had given them, the way we had written it was understandable, but sometimes when you're writing things and it's coming out, it's not as understandable to the person reading them. So we've got a bit of clarification and explanation to provide to USED. And there is potential for change in the accountability regulation. Now, we have shared with you multiple times the regulation and the information on the accountability regulation. We feel like that the approach to the ESSA state plan, it's like a puzzle. We've got multiple pieces to go that need to be fit together to make a clearer picture. And we've got those pieces, but the pieces are maybe turned a bit sideways, and we just need to straighten them out a bit and get them in the right boxes to meet the requirements of that federal statute, the Every Student Succeeds Act. So we've got a possibility for change in our accountability regulation, and if we go toward that, we will definitely share with our DACs and our BACs possible changes. And we're currently working with our technical advisors. Earlier this morning, Michael and I were in a meeting with our partners at the Center for Assessment, Brian Gong and Chris Domaleski, and they were providing us, and we were looking toward possible solutions to where we need to meet or better align with the Every Student Succeeds Act. So we have the pieces of the puzzle. We've just got them a little twisted or a little misaligned, so we need to get those in the right places for meeting our Every Student Succeeds Act regulation. So we are expected to have our response back to USED by the end of this month, so January 31st. So we will have written response back with further explanation in detail to our USED. As for early graduates, the early graduate report, Jenny Larkins has asked that we share that the students who were in that program that needed to be assessed in December and last fall during Window 1, those assessments have been scored and should have received an email from her yesterday afternoon saying that the individual student reports are available. They are located on the secure web application in the student detail section. And the naming configuration is by district and by individual. So if you have questions about accessing those reports, please contact Jenny Larkins.
Okay, and an update, we have mentioned a few times throughout our webcast today about the upcoming February DAC trainings. If you will take a look, we do have one change. We listened to you all and felt the need that we did need to change a date in late February. The KEDC Ashland date was changed from Monday, February the 19th to Wednesday, February the 21st. All the other locations are still a go. Registration is now open. If you look at the DAC email that was sent on Monday, if you look at the dates and then you look at the location, each location is a hyperlink. If you click that, then that should allow you to register for the February DAC training that you would like to attend. Just as a friendly reminder, all these locations, the Division of Assessment Support, we are going green. We will not have paper copies, but they will be available for download. So each location should have Wi-Fi available, but if you are a person like me that likes to have a 3-ring binder, you might want to go on a day or two before and print out your materials and stick it in a binder. So, but just a friendly reminder that we are going green, and there is a change to one of the late February DAC trainings, and that will be February 21st at KEDC in Ashland. So the original date was February the 19th. That was President's Day. And through a little research and from a little bit of feedback from you all, we were able to work with KEDC, and they were able to accommodate us on February the 21st.
And we were happy to make that change. So once we were able to investigate and note that multiple DACs had requested that change, the stars did align for us. So I think this Chinese calendar is going to work out for us this year. So as I started off, it is the year for change. And so we're happy to make that change for you and hope that that works in your schedule. And we do appreciate many of you have already registered for our February DAC trainings. The last I talked with Teresa King in our office, we had over 100 registrations already. So we're glad to be able to provide that service to you, and we do look forward to seeing each of you at the different locations. Let's pause now and turn back to Pam to see if she has any other questions for us.
We've had no other questions come in, but I do have a clarification. The Pearson Access Next, you will have a login for the ACT, and you will have one login for both K-Prep and EOC. So in total, you would have a maximum of 2 logins.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Pam. I really appreciate it. So that's good. Just 2 logins for Pearson Access Next. Well, we look forward to seeing you in February. We will have our February DAC monthly webcast. It is scheduled for February 8th. Many of us will be coming back from our Western Kentucky trip. We do have a special guest coming. Robin McCoy is coming to talk about course codes and the course code project. So the majority of our February 8th DAC monthly webcast will be dedicated to the course code project. So please plan to tune in to that webcast and tune in to our February DAC training. So we look forward to seeing you there. Until then, if you have questions, please send them to dacinfo@education.ky.gov. We'll see you soon.
Have a good day.